What's going on, Buccaneers fans? It's Caleb Skinner at CHS Noel on Twitter, formerly known as X. I am filling in for Logan Robinson, who is usually our normal host here on Here Are the Cannons at BucsGameday.com. Unfortunately, Logan has a birthday tonight, so
The nerve, honestly.
the nerve, right? And here I have stuff going all over the place. Sorry about that, but yeah, the nerve for him to have a birthday on the Bucs' first preseason game, unbelievable. But yeah, a lot to take away from this game. We're going to be breaking down a ton of stuff. There's a guy who possibly just made his name moving up the roster in terms of making the 53 man, who we'll talk about. There's a lot to like from the depth portions of what the Buccaneers have, as they did not play any of their starters at all tonight.
Yep.
A lot to like, a lot that still needs to be fixed up, fine-tuned along the way, River. But let's go ahead and just get first impressions. What are we going off of tonight? With me, as always, is River, our lead editor at BucsGameday.com. Thank you for joining me.
That's
and
me.
Holding it down with Logan being selfish and celebrating his birthday and everything of that nature. Thank you for being here with me tonight, man. What were your initial thoughts on the Bucs' first preseason game of the 2026 season, coming away with a 24-16 win over the New York Jets?
Yeah, we love Logan, by the way. Shout out Logan, happy birthday. But yeah, it was a preseason game for sure. No starters really were in there and playing, so you got a good look at some other guys. Obviously, as we knew going into this game, Jake Browning, Tampa Bay's QB2 backup quarterback, did not play. So Connor Bazelak and Jalen Daniels split reps there at quarterback. Got a good look at a few guys. A few guys made their names known, and we'll talk about guys like that. You know, Aiden Garn. I thought Jalen Daniels had a pretty good game. We'll talk about Connor Bazelak. Look a little bit rough out there, and then some up and down games for guys like Keontae Scott and Bauer Sharp. So we'll get into all that. But overall, you know, it's good work. The score doesn't matter. Getting those live reps is really what does matter, and Todd Bowles was able to see and evaluate a few of his players tonight, I think, and we'll see how that kind of goes into the next preseason game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and whether or not some of those players will get some more playing time, get to feel out, a game scenario a little bit more in the coming weeks.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, but overall, I think this is probably the most we've ever really had to talk about, like a preseason game, right? The past couple of years, I feel like we haven't had that much to talk about, but we do all of a sudden, and it feels like we have a lot of joy after this game, right? Like it feels like Buccaneers fans are happy about what's happened. There are some things that you dislike too along the way, but looking at the positives, right? Let's just start here with Aiden Garns.
Yeah.
And what he was able to do during this game. I wrote about him probably about 3 hours just right before the game kicked off about how he's going to have a great chance to prove himself going up against some of the ones with Zion McCollum out, BMO out, and being able to prove himself and making that 53-man roster, competing with Josh Hayes, competing with Pepe Williams as well. What did he show you tonight? And is he worthy of one of those spots at this point, or do we need to see a little bit more?
Honestly, I don't think so. You know, Aiden Garns looked really, really good tonight. He had that pick six, which he did jump on a route pretty nicely, read it. Bailey Zappi had a bit of a tough time, I think, out there overall. He had another pick with Rashad Wisdom as well. So there's a little bit of that in there too. But, it's Garn's job to read that route, jump in front of the receiver, and not only pick it off, but take the right running lane, take it back for 6 to the crib, right? So looked really, really good so far in camp. Multiple pass breakups, and now to have a pick 6 in your debut NFL action, be it preseason or not. Hard to imagine that Garns is not playing himself onto the 53-man roster. Maybe more so of a special teams contribution role and a really, a depth piece kind of as a UDFA, right? But he's showing that when you actually do get him out on the field as a cornerback, he can make plays, and he's done that throughout all of camp. He did that during joint practice with the Jets, making some good PBUs, and he got an interception today on Bailey Zappi and the Jets, taking it back for 6, scoring, helping the Bucs. Again, score doesn't really matter that much, but helping the Bucs win a game in East Rutherford. So, right now it's hard to say he's not going to be on that 53-man roster. I think he is, and he's really making plays. He's showing that despite being an undrafted free agent, he can hang with some of the big boys and play with these guys, and hard not to be impressed.
Exactly. I mean, it's really hard not to be impressed by what he's been able to do. I mean, you guys have watched it, firsthand. I'm up here in the Northeast in New England. I don't get to see it firsthand. You guys have with the pass breakups, and
Right.
he's also been going up against the ones in joint practices with the New York Jets, going
Yes.
up against Garrett Wilson and things of
Yes.
that nature.
Yes.
So he's been going up to some of the NFL's best, and
Big
now
time.
he's making a name for himself a little bit. Like everybody's like, oh, where did this guy come from? But he's smaller side, but he does a really good job of balancing his body weight and being able to move and mirror those wide receivers that he is covering. So him being able to just do that is good. We all worried about it, right? Talking about the depth of that cornerback room. It was a worry for pretty much everybody. The rest of the defense, everything's kind of solidified. Everything was rebuilt up to what it possibly could be and what we all wanted to, right? And now, does this like give you a little bit more comfort moving forward in that cornerback room with the show that Aiden Garns has kind of been doing?
Yeah, especially when you have guys like Benjamin Morrison, that it's kind of hard for them to get back on the field, right, due to injury. And this room does need some depth pretty badly. It's got Jacob Parrish, it's got Zion McCollum, it's got Benjamin Morrison. Then after that, the Bucks brought in two depth pieces in Keeman Hall and Chase Lucas, both of whom have now been cut due to injury. So something to take care of there. But guys like Aiden Garns, and to also refer to Pepe Williams, out there, number 28. Also playing some good football overall, especially
Really
in
good
camp.
tackling tonight, but on his
Big
part, I
time,
think.
big
Yeah.
time, and those type of guys who can kind of enforce their will and make their presence known on the roster can really help depth. And it means that you don't need those guys like Chase Lucas and Keeman Hall that you signed in the offseason, that you've got some guys that can play in a pinch and offer special teams value at the same time as well. That's the most important thing you can do if you're a UDFA or fringe roster guy, is be able to perform on special teams. They can do all that. So yeah, if you're Todd Bowles, watching Aiden Garns do that and watching Pepe Williams make these tackles does make you feel really good about the depth you have in that room, and it should. So that's been really cool to see, and we'll see if it ends up being more apparent throughout these next two preseason games. If Garns and Williams make even more plays, then they'll feel even better, obviously. So interesting stuff, and we'll see if Garns can maybe poke his way up in the depth chart a little bit. I mean, he's been making some plays. Benjamin Morrison hasn't been out there. You'd assume Benjamin Morrison will have kind of locked down a pretty solid spot on this roster despite being injured. But the more, Garnes is out there and the harder he plays and the more plays he makes, it's going to be continuously harder to kind of deny him.
Yeah, really, I agree with you completely, 100%. I think really the thing that you want to take away the most from this game really is how well the defense played. I think they really shine tonight, right? And I think one of the biggest things is that there is constant pressure from the defensive line as well, which is going to help out that back end of the defense, right? So with guys like Jack Pyburn getting 2 sacks on night, you were able to see David Walker have a great game, not necessarily in the stat line, right? Like he's
Right,
not.
but he caused that interception that Aiden Garnes got, right, off that pressure.
Right. Right. So and not only that, but he's getting double. I mean, from the get go of this game, I felt like David Walker was consistently getting doubled throughout, but he's still creating havoc in the backfield. What were you able to see from a guy that we weren't able to see under the lights last offseason because he did tear his ACL, bouncing back from that, looking the way that he did tonight?
Yeah, like I mentioned, that pressure directly contributed to Bailey Zappi throwing that pick and to Aiden Garns getting it. And that's really important all across the board. That synergy between the defensive line and the secondary helps each other make good plays, be it from coverage sacks on one end to interceptions on the other if you're getting pressure. So he had a pretty good game there in that respect. I thought he did do better than guys like Chris Braswell, who still seem to struggle a little bit across the course of the game, especially when it comes to run defense. So that's something to acknowledge and note. Walker has been the talk of the town in camp. Played a pretty good game today, so I think he did more to continue that upward stock that he's had, and he'll have to continue to prove that over these next two preseason games, where he'll also get a lot of reps. And now, probably in the second preseason game, you're going to see more starters too, so he'll have a little bit less time to kind of do that, but he'll definitely get a lot of minutes in that third preseason game. Back half of the second, we'll see a lot more David Walker out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he was kind of one of those sticking points tonight. Aiden Garn's obviously what he was able to do. Rashad Wisdom coming away with what he was able to do. Solid tackling on the outside by Pepe Williams as well. Another person that we should obviously give a shout out for this game was the play of Elijah Roberts. What did you see from him
Yeah.
tonight, and why he was able to be so successful up front?
Yeah, he got a sack, right, as well. He did pretty well too.
I think a
And
couple of tackle for losses as well. In
yeah,
that.
he was in the backfield quite a bit. You saw him, and without Vita Vea there, and without some of those guys like Ashawn Robinson and Elijah Simmons, who's a little bit banged up, you got opportunities to make yourself known there. And Elijah Roberts did just that, right? Got into the backfield, got some pressures. He played pretty well last year in his limited sort of role, and I think he kind of overtook Logan Hall's spot last year on the defensive line. He'll definitely prove to rotate in there again this year with guys like John Robinson and Clyde Cansey in and out. So good showing from him. He looked pretty good last year as well. He only has this offseason to prepare and really dig into the fundamentals and the playbook and all that, and not that whirlwind of pre-draft stuff where you're half the offseason trying to figure out all that. So that'll only help. And the Bucs would love that if they could really get another bona fide player in the defensive line. He's trending upward. He's got to prove a little bit more that he can continue to do that, but he should get a lot of playing time this year, I think, in rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. And with us touching on, the specific players that we saw pretty much show themselves this game on the defensive side of the ball, what were your ultimate takeaways from what the whole side of that ball were able to do?
The defense?
Yes.
Pretty good. In the beginning, it was hard to evaluate because they were playing the
A little
ones.
slow start, right? Yeah, they're
Yeah,
playing
they
the
were the
ones.
twos playing the ones. Garrett Wilson was out there and Brees Hall was out there, so I mean that can be tough. But they made that stop. They bend but not break. And that's kind of Todd Bowles' whole thing, right? His defensive philosophy. He likes to allow those small points and then kind of strike back at the bigger ones on offense, and that's what they did. So hard to fault them there. I thought overall they played a pretty good game, made it happen. There was that one Braylon Allen sort of break there. They miscontained there, kind of got sucked into the middle. There was no gap sort of strength that they were able to maintain, and they broke loose. So
Was that the Malifonwu and Nick Jackson both getting pulled into the middle?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. No gap integrity there. But other than that, I thought they played pretty well. Once guys like Bailey Zappi and Brady Cook came in, they handled business fairly easily. So that's more than you can ask for there. I think overall, as a showing of talent and depth, it went pretty well.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. I think that was kind of the headliner of tonight was how well the defense played. And we're going to bounce into the offense real quick. But while you guys are here, I got to tell you guys about PrizePicks. We're using them all season. And with the preseason games here, there's no reason to wait until week 1 to get in on the action. If you haven't tried it, it's super simple. You're just picking more or less of player stats. So whether you're tracking Bucky Irving's rushing totals, Baker Mayfield's passing yard totals, Ted Hurst as a rookie, and what he's doing on a week-to-week basis. Choose PrizePicks for what you have. We have a great offer for you here. If you play just $5 on your first lineup, you get $150 back if you use code HMA. Again, if you use code HMA, if you play $5 and you win, you will get $150 back to play. Whether you're listening to us in Florida, Boston, where I'm at, in Massachusetts, Texas, or California, you can play right along with us. So go ahead, download PrizePicks and go get your free money while you're at it. But River, let's go ahead and switch over here, brother, to the offensive side of the ball, because we've talked a lot about the defensive side of the ball and how well they look tonight. Aiden Garn's making the 53, Jack Piper getting those 2 sacks, Elijah Roberts causing a lot of havoc there in the backfield, David Walker constantly taking on those double teams. Switching over to the offensive side of the ball. In my opinion, Bazelak, up and down night. I think he had some good moments. I think he had some bad moments as well. Sometimes his feet looks like they're kind of stuck in the mud, not really knowing what to do. But when he started to get a little bit more comfortable, would move out of the pocket when it needed to be. Had a really decent, in my opinion, pocket awareness from his aspect of things as he enters his second year in the league. But not what we were able to see from Jalen Daniels there in this second half. Kid has a rifle. He's just
I think a little bit too much of a rifle, which we'll get into. Yeah.
kid has just a gun on him, man. Like he is not afraid to stick it in there. He stuck it in there with the power sharp there on the 4th down there late in the game. Really awesome to see what he's able to bring. He looks calm, he looks confident, and he looks poised, which is a lot different than what you're seeing from Bazelak when he is back there behind center. What are your thoughts on the two? Give the chat a good idea of where these two are standing right now, in your opinion, as well as their performances tonight.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a tale of two extremes, right? I thought Bazelak's arm didn't show out. It was pretty inconsistent and not very fast. He doesn't have a lot of velocity on his footballs, right? So that's something to consider there. Made it pretty hard for Ted Hurst on a few throws. Now, that touchdown that Ted Hurst dropped, he's still got to catch, but thrown behind him, and then that ball on the ground that Ted Hurst had to catch that ended up being ruled an incomplete pass. I honestly don't think he needed to use the ground to secure that, but with how low that pass was, it was impossible not to think
I have a
that that
question
was
for
the
that
case.
because you're taught, right? Like two hands.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like go under, like just go like put your arm
Honestly, I
down.
think by letter of the law, you could argue that was a catch. I don't think he necessarily needed to use the ground to secure it, but
What's the rule?
that ball was so low.
I think
Uh,
Rondé brought it up on the
The
broadcast or
Bert
something. He's like,
Emmanuel rule. Don't
yeah,
traumatize Bucks fans like that. They don't need that. It made it hard sometimes there and some errant throws. Jalen Daniels, the opposite problem. I think Daniels has a rifle on him, but I think he does need to dial it back with the touch, right? It seemed like sometimes even the short throws were about 1,000,000,000 miles an hour. But overall, I think Daniels looked better. He has a bit better arm that can stretch the field, right? It's more consistent. He had a few wide misses for his first NFL game, but he had some really good throws. Garrett Green pass that he had was pretty nice. And then he had another one to Garrett Green that probably should have been a nice big gain towards the left sideline, but Garrett Green
yeah,
dropped
sure.
it. So had a little bit of that going on too. But he ran in a touchdown to help extend the lead to 8 points. And then he led the drive that allowed Josh Williams to run it in as well. So overall, I think he definitely was the better quarterback in the day. I would like to see Jalen Daniels with Ted Hurst. So I don't know if they plan on doing that, but I think that would be a lot of fun. Obviously, a really raw prospect has some work to do. Got a little bit nervous and angsty, and like I mentioned, some of the touch on his footballs he was throwing was kind of all over the place, beaming it when it's short and long. A lot of those throws were very strong. He show up his arm, but he's got to, find a good rhythm there and figure out when to kind of let it fly and when to kind of pull it back a little bit. But overall, I thought he looked better than Connor Bazelak. I did. And I have a feeling that you'd like to see him with some of those guys like Ted Hurst and some of the other receivers. If only Tez Johnson was able to come back, I'd love to see Jalen Daniels with Tez Johnson. He's seen with a groin injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but that would be something I would like to see.
Yeah, and I hate to be one to bring up stats after a first preseason game.
That sounds like a guy who's about to bring up stats after a
Yes,
first
it is a
preseason
guy
game.
who's about to
Yeah.
bring up some stats. This is via a friend of the show from Pewter Report, Bailey Adams. Jalen Daniels during his first drive, 4 of 5, 57 yards, 2 carries for 8 yards, led the Bucks 80 yards in 12 plays, taking 7 minutes and 34 seconds off the clock.
Right.
Thoughts?
Good. His first drive was good. He did exactly what he needed to do. That the drives afterward, he found it hard to kind of really get a rhythm in there, which helps. But he was able to do it again towards the end of the game with that drive that led to a touchdown. Shout out to the Jets for putting 12 men on the field and allowing the Bucks to continue that drive. Good throw, by the way, to Bauer Sharp in that tight window to convert on 4th and 5. That was good from Jalen Daniels. Looking at stats here real quick. Jalen Daniels went 10 for 15, 111 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He did have the touchdown that he scored himself on the ground. Connor Bazelak, 12 for 20, 72 yards. So no touchdowns, interceptions. So statistically, Daniels looked better. And honestly, looking at his arm strength and Daniels' legs, that dimension that he adds, Bazelak did scramble for a first down earlier in the day, but I think Daniels just has that different dimension. He looked like the better quarterback today, and it's hard not to think that he's not winning this QB3 competition in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, It's weird because looking at the chat, Maurice here. Yeah, I think that's the difference. It just looks different. Like it
He did
just
look confident. He does not lack that. I think that's for sure. He does not.
he does
Certainly
not
does
lack
not
that.
lack that. No.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And we'll go back here too. You had mentioned you want to see Jalen Daniels with Ted Hurst.
I do. I do. I think
Let's
it's a lot
talk
of fun.
about Ted Hurst.
Why don't we?
Um,
I think it's a good idea. Chat, is that a good idea?
Probably a good idea. I think we talk about our third round draft pick. It's up and down game. Not great.
Yeah.
It would have been great if he would have came down with that touchdown, but that's what we're all going to be talking about, right? So where do you see him at this point? What did you see from him this game? I think if he wasn't playing on turf, that first catch that he had probably could have gone for way longer than it actually could have, because he absolutely moved the defender off of him after he caught the ball and then slid down and then was ultimately tackled. And then I do have a gripe to pick with him, because I think he should have been a little bit more stronger at the catch point on that touchdown, as well as coming back to the ball a little bit more. So that's my nitpicks with Ted Hurst's game overall. But I think he did a good job in his first NFL action.
He did. I thought he did. Those two things are definitely the weakest parts of him so far: the struggle to come back to the ball and the struggle to get physical at the catch point and jump up to go get touchdowns and catches. Those are both learned skills, especially in the NFL. So he's got a lot of time to figure that out, get the confidence to play physical, and learn how to do both those things. You want to see the intangibles there. And I think he's got it, right? He can get open. Good hands we've seen so far. He did have a drop in joint practice coming in here, but I think he has some pretty good hands outside of that drop. Got to make sure he gets. That's part of being physical, right? It's behind you. You got a guy right there. You got to really establish your dominance there at the goal line and make that grab. But otherwise, I liked what I saw from him. I thought there wasn't much he could have done on that catch where he had to try and grab the ball pretty low from Bazelak. You mentioned the goal line play, but he made some good catches, had some good yak yards, and I like what I saw from Ted Hurst. So I would like to see more of him this preseason. I think so far, pretty good outing for the rookie.
So it was such a subtle introduction that is like it's like that. What's the meme where the guy's dangling the dollar bill?
Gotta be quicker than that.
Yeah, that's what it was like with Ted Hurst tonight. They're just dangling him out there. We just want to see him. We want to see him break more. We want to see him do more. But again, under the bright lights for the first time, NFL, as a rookie, third round pick, you're at Georgia State. You're coming into it, and you're the only nationally televised game. That's gotta be big, right? Big moments. You're also working with backup quarterbacks. You're not working with Baker Mayfield and so on and so forth. But I really agree with you, River. I think he did an excellent job. I think there could have been things that he needs to work on, which we've established at this point, right? The things that happened tonight were things that we already established beforehand. But let's keep moving here. Nothing really much from the running game, right? No, you didn't see Kenny Gainwell. You didn't see Bucky Irving. It was
no, but you had a nice little touchdown from Josh Williams. Put a move on a guy to get it in from 12 yards out. That was nice. That was nice. And
which is nice. If you have a guy like that on your practice squad,
looking nice. Yeah. So that was fun. Otherwise, backup line was in. I thought Ben Chukwuma had a bit of a rough day today.
I was going to ask you, do you want to go ahead and touch on?
Yeah, Paul Ravel had a bit of a rough day today as well. You had a penalty from Paul Ravel, was struggling a little bit, and then Chukwuma at right tackle there, a little tough. But, he's learning. He's got a very physical skill set, and he played decent last year in lieu of some other linemen, so not bad to start off, and he has a lot of work to do, but he could still be a reliable swing tackle for the Buccaneers if he keeps doing that work. So I would say that's maybe a reason why the run game was a little up and down for sure. But I think Josh Williams, the best runner, 3.4 yards a carry. Obviously, you'd like that to be higher ideally, but it's preseason. So overall looking decent. We'll see some starters, see if that wide zone gets a little more complex in week 2, maybe not. Maybe see Bucky Irving, Kenny Gainwell get in there, utilize the pass catching game a little bit more. But for now, it is what it is, I think.
And sticking on this game, I think one of the sticking points for Tampa Bay fans as a whole last year was the inefficiency of the special teams unit as a whole.
Yeah.
I didn't see too much change from last year into this
Yeah,
year.
Caleb, I gotta ask, do you think we gotta get someone in there to compete with Riley Dixon?
It's becoming a hot topic.
I think the Bucs might want to
What was his
consider it.
average tonight?
Let's take a
42,
look at that there.
42 yards.
45.3. Not incredible. So that's something you
I think
really
he
got to think
shanked
about.
one at one
Yeah.
point.
You gotta think about that. That was a position that the Bucs kind of struggled with last year. Riley Dixon had a club option. Tampa Bay picked up the club option to keep him back. They've got Potter in to kick while Chase McLaughlin is out to kind of save McLaughlin's leg, but they don't have any other punters to compete with Riley Dixon. And you have to think after this performance, you might want to consider that going forward. That's going to be a hot topic, like you mentioned, probably for Bucs fans and pundits going forward here, especially as Dixon's kind of continues to kick. So,
If you're throwing pundits out there, it's going to make national news.
well,
How
I
about
mean, for people who follow the team close and beat writers and whatnot, so that's got to be something you consider. I think is trying to find a punter that can maybe push Dixon because that was not the showing. I think you really need to come out of the gate and go for it. It's also not like he didn't punt a lot. He punted 6 times, so there was a lot of material there to work with, and you would ideally want a higher average than that.
Yeah, Keith missing as Kid Flash in here.
Yeah.
Keith missing a couple tackles there.
Now that you have
the
Danny Smith here in the room, a lot of these special teams players are going to get shuffled around because he's going to have guys that he likes and guys he doesn't like in conjunction with how Thomas McGahee did. So it's going to look a little bit different, and this is going to be the time to kind of establish yourself and prove yourself on this new special teams unit under Smith. And yeah, Dixon doing what he did, Keith doing stuff like that doesn't really help. So it will be interesting to see how that develops over the course of this preseason, what that special teams unit's going to look like from point A to point B. There was also
the drop.
Kadarius Callaway, yeah, the
dude.
one at the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
He didn't come back out for kicks after that, and that makes sense. So overall, yeah, a lot to work on there, but progress is progress. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we also we know what Danny's reaction's gonna be to stuff like that. Maurice is in here asking us if we saw how mad
he wears his emotions pretty firmly on his sleeve, I think. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and Lightning Films in here asking if Killebrew played. I don't believe so.
I don't
did
believe
not
so.
see him on
I
the
don't
field.
believe so.
Yeah. So the Buccaneers really withheld all their starters tonight. Killebrew kind of fits into that mold.
Special teams ace,
yeah, as that special teams guy, as River mentioned. Overall, though, man, I think it was a solid output by the team in a preseason game, albeit. But let's look at the overall aspect of what the Buccaneers are coming out of this with, right? I think first and foremost, it's health. You came out of this very healthy still. Like there is nothing major that has really gone on. Callaway got injured there, near injured there. He came back into the game after he got injured and limped off the field a little bit. But overall, that's my biggest takeaway from this. And obviously, the depth. I think the depth, showing that you have good depth and being able to compete is a good thing as well. But what were your big takeaways from the whole event here on the first preseason game?
Yeah, it was good work, and that's what the Buccaneers wanted. There are some players like Aiden Garns and like David Walker and like Ted Hurst, I thought, who really showed their stuff. Shout out Bauer Sharp, too, had a pretty rough drop, but made the most of it afterwards. Some good contested catches. Devin Culp also had that really nice catch from Jalen Daniels on that throw, so that's going to be a fun competition going into camp. But got good work in.
You don't want to say the wrong Daniels name out here because there might be a
cease and desist. Yes,
there might be a cease and desist coming our way.
That's true. But if we do takeaway, it's going to have to be either 4 or 6. We can't use that one number anymore.
No more fun. We can't use fun.
We're going to get a call from his PR team. We have fun. We have fun here at BucsGameday. Yeah, it's. I think it was good work. I think that's what they wanted. Preseason scores don't matter. Scenarios matter. Game time matters. We saw some good stuff. They were able to hold the Jets kind of majorly first team minus Geno Smith with a field goal to start the game. That's pretty nice. Jalen Daniels looked pretty good, and you wanted to see that from him, right? and he's a raw prospect. There's a lot of upside there. So accomplishment there for the Bucs. Ted Hurst made some plays. Overall, hard to complain necessarily. There's things to work on, but at the end of the day, it's preseason. The score doesn't matter. The playbook's limited, and you're going out there to get those mental reps and to get those physical reps, live bullets for the first time, and that's what they're doing. So hard to complain about anything that happened today. They'll face off against the Chiefs coming up next week. And then we got another joint practice in Jacksonville in 2 weeks as well. So look forward to that.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, go ahead and throw them our way here in the chat. River, I've got one here that is from Kid Flash. It's talking about the offensive scheme here with Robinson, but we can run this both ways. Are you seeing anything different when you were watching today? Was there anything different that you were seeing on the field schematically that it has, piqued your interest as we head into the season?
Preseason, the playbook is so limited, so not really for sure. It's definitely a similar system to the one we've seen, that West Coast style Sean McVay type offense. Running wide zones can be the biggest thing to look for going forward. That's kind of where the run game gets stretched out at the sidelines. The tackles have to be really quick, and then the running backs to cut back in, and the gaps have to open at that point. Saw a little bit of that tonight. You'll see a lot more of that from week 1 onward, but for right now, pretty limited sort of playbook. It looks very similar to that type of McVay offense, and that's what the Buccaneers like to run. So Baker Mayfield's comfortable running. You'll begin to see that playbook open up a little bit more and more as we get close to the season, and then once week 1 hits, you'll really get to see it in action. But look out for that wide zone, because the Bucs are going to try and run that. It's going to be a big departure from running gap scheme, which they have the last 2 years. They're going to go for it with wide zone, which is kind of more like a think about zone defense. It's kind of how it works, right? You're protecting a zone out wide towards the sideline. That's going to be a bit of a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think of anything else that happened within this game. I thought it was interesting that the Buccaneers ran a little bit of RPO. So like we were just talking about schematic wise, they didn't run it until Daniels was in the game, right? When I forget who he handed the ball off to, but took off to the right side, and it was the Williams.
Probably Josh Williams. Yeah.
Was it the Josh Williams touchdown?
Probably Josh Williams. Yes. Yes.
I thought that was interesting because a lot of the NFL right now is moving away from that RPO.
Yeah.
And Zach Robinson just incorporated that. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, and Daniels is an undrafted free agent, so keeping things simple is probably in the best interest, especially in preseason. That's where a lot of RPOs will come from, and the run part is definitely more indicative of that skill set that Jalen Daniels has. So you might still see that, and I think Baker Mayfield's the type of quarterback who could be successful with RPOs, especially given how quick-natured they are and how instinctual they are. So we'll see how it goes. It's hard to kind of tell right now in preseason what we're looking at. That scheme's going to get more developed and more intricate the closer we get to week 1. And then obviously in week 1, the scheme will be there, because then they're going to be playing Cincinnati Bengals, and they're probably going to want to win that game. So I think they're going to pull out all the stops.
Most likely. I agree. Sitting here, I've got a couple more comments here that are further back.
Let's do it.
People who were watching earlier, not necessarily questions, but comments as well, but things that we can kind of work off of. Here's one from Lightning Films here. Keontae Scott played well into the 4th, but I didn't hear his name much today, which is always good news for DBs. What, if at all, were you able to see from Keontae Scott in his play?
He got being on coverage once or twice. He did have the final pass breakup of the game to end the game, right? Kind of a throw, but he was able to get his hand up there and then get it. And he's playing,
and that's man to man too, because Bulls brought everybody.
Right. He's playing safety. He's playing. They was trying to play him at corner. They're playing him at nickel. He's gonna try and be that Christian Isian kind of guy. That's how Bulls told us, where he can, if necessary, play anything. So those are some good first reps for him. I think he does have some coverage concerns from his time there at Miami, but he didn't play bad, I don't think, and he did get that final pass breakup, so he's proven that he can put himself in there. Not bad.
And we'll go over here to somebody that we had mentioned earlier. I'm trying to bring up like the most nice comment about him. Cut Braswell.
That's the nicest comment you could find about Chris Braswell.
It's not great. The chat is not. The chat is not very high on
That's tough. That's
Chris
tough. Okay, well,
Braswell.
that's the
So
nicest Chris Braswell comment. I gotta say it's not wrong. I'm not advocating for Chris Braswell to be cut wholesale, but I think he had a chance to kind of prove himself among guys like David Walker, and particularly in the run game, it was really tough sledding for him. I thought he was unable to kind of get an anchor and be disruptive there and set the edge. And you just need to be able to do that if you're going to be a edge rusher in the NFL. He didn't do a great job of that tonight, pretty notably. I would agree the future's not looking great for Chris Braswell at the moment, given Al-Quadi Muhammad, given David Walker's rise, given Anthony Nelson's already still on the roster. Now we're going down the depth chart. We're going down the depth chart. Guys like Howard Comer is also there. Yeah, he needs to prove himself that he could really get after it, and I don't think he did enough of that today. I don't think he did.
yep.
Tonight, even. If you
Yeah.
would. Since it started at 7.
No, it's been a couple of years now, and now we're into year 3, and it's kind of same thing we've been seeing, right? Like, not enough. It's just not there. There's nothing production-wise that is telling you, hey, we need to keep this guy, especially when you've got a guy like David Walker right there. You've got Anthony Nelson, who is a proven, not necessarily production-wise, but proven big-time player. Like he whenever it matters most, Anthony Nelson is always there. So that's like, you gotta apples to oranges, really, I guess, is where you're sitting with that. But River, as we make our takeaways from this game of the preseason against the New York Jets, what are you looking for Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers to do as they head into this second preseason game against Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, hopefully Jake Browning can get healthy so that he can get some good reps in as well. Would like to see him back strain. Hopefully he can kind of get going before that game. Like I mentioned, I'd love to see Jalen Daniels throw to Ted Hurst. I would love to see that connection. I think Daniels looked much like the better quarterback between the two today. Get him some more reps, see how comfortable he is. Todd Bowles said he was very poised in his post-game press conference, so already a big fan there. And I would like to see some starters. I know we didn't play Ruben Bain. Ruben Bain's a rookie. Would hope that Ruben Bain gets some play time going forward. Definitely needs to get that going, get some reps, get some live
Imagine
bullets.
him tonight in that game.
It would have been fun, right? So would love to see the first team offense and defense out there a little bit, get some preparation going, get those guys a few reps, and that's all you could really ask for in preseason. It doesn't really matter how they look, just that they're getting the work. And there was good work today, and hopefully there'll be good work next week.
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt, as we always say on this show. You can only take so much with what you're given through training camp, joint practices, preseason games, so on and so forth, until those games start to matter, which will happen in week 1 against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. We're going to be covering it for you over here at BucsGameday, and it'll be me, River, Logan, the rest of our great crew of writers that we have there. If you guys aren't already subscribed, be sure to subscribe to our channel here, be able to turn on those notifications. You'll get notified anytime that we're going live, whether it's post-game, post-practice, anything of that nature. We also are dipping into the YouTube Reels, I guess is what they're called. I'm not real big into the short form media and stuff. You know, I'm old, man. Like I'm getting old, so I'm not real big into that. But you'll get all that good stuff. We're bringing you guys that all the time with PrizePicks as well. You guys be sure to sign up for that. Go put $5 down. If you win $150 as long as you use code HMA. We truly appreciate you guys. We're working towards 5,000 subscribers by the start of the season. We're at about probably 4,920. So we're right there on the precipice. So we truly do appreciate every single one of you guys coming in here, showing us some love. Be sure to hit that like button as well. With that being said, River, I think it was a great night overall for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they've got a lot.
You're getting called Unk in the chat, man.
Oh,
You're getting
Lord,
called
that's
Unk
not
in
good.
the chat. That's
They're
crazy. Chat, keep calling him Unk. Honestly, keep doing it.
32 like Unk status?
It is now. It is now.
Boy, that's brutal. With that being said, guys, we truly do appreciate you guys joining in here. We'll be back with you guys next week.
We will.
A regular show as well as probably a post-game show after we face off against the Kansas City Chiefs. With that being said, River, go ahead and sign us off.
Fire the cannons, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.